I'm kind of controversial in this, but my favorite protocol is actually cold plunging after a workout and right before bed.
What are some of the key benefits that you're after? Why do you plunge?
For the focus and mental acuity that I get from it. So I get in the cold plunge and I head dunk. And the reason why I do that is it enhances the dopamine and norepinephrine effect, and it activates the mammalian dye reflex.
Ciaran Flanagan is the founder of Inergize Health, a 7-figure wellness brand transforming recovery with innovative, portable cold plunge therapy.
Originally from Ireland, Ciaran leveraged his engineering expertise, designing cooling systems for gas turbines, to develop cutting-edge products that enhance both physical and mental performance.
And with breathwork, you're forced into presence, just like the cold. You're forced into presence. Like you have to think about nothing but your breath and like where you are.
If you had to pick one, cold plunging or breathwork, for whatever benefits you're after, which one would you pick? Alrighty, hey Ciaran, thanks so much for joining me on the show today. I'm super excited. We had a bit of an email exchange before, and you told me about your sobriety and how transformative that was for your life, and so I'd like to hear more about what was the transformative nature of that, and what did it mean to you in the sense of ending up where you are today with being deep into cold plunging, cold water immersion, breath work. You just mentioned before we started recording that you took part of one of the Wim Hof workshops. I'm super excited about that because that's also on my bucket list. So maybe tell me a little bit about yourself, your history, your struggle with or lack thereof with sobriety, and how that led to where you are today. And then we dive right into cold plunging, into some of the lesser known benefits, maybe some of the science that you've come across, and same then with breathwork. I think breathwork is such an underrated tool that we all can use. It's for free, and so let's talk about that more then as well.
Yeah, I feel like alcohol is a poison, and for me it was chipping away at my productivity and my potential. From coming from Ireland, that's in my culture, like drinking pints, like it's just part of what we do.
Right.
And it got to a point where I was partying all summer and I got COVID, and I had a time to reflect, and I realized alcohol had such a negative impact on my momentum and my focus and my health. It just increases inflammation. I had a lot of brain fog and not much mental clarity and emotional regulation. And I was like, okay, let me see what happens if I stop. So I stopped for 1 month. I saw all the benefits of just like clear head, no fog, better focus, more energy, better libido. And I was like, why am I even drinking? So it was just a clear day and night comparison. And top of that, I looked at my Oura Ring scores. At the time I had Oura Ring. So it was a interesting comparison of when I drank alcohol, my sleep scores were absolute garbage. I was in like the 60s, and then after stopping drinking, you can see it just spike up like 20%. And that was just a clear indicator that what I was doing was not working, and how I was feeling did correlate to the Oura Ring data. And I just decided to continue on that path and stop drinking, and it helped me remain focused and build Energize to where it's at today.
So when you say drinking, how much did you drink? How often did you drink? And did you consider yourself to be an alcoholic, or just like the average Irish dude?
I would say I was just an average Irish dude. Yeah, for sure. I would have like 10 drinks the weekend, and it would that just in one night. So it'd be just one night, and that would affect me for the rest of the week. Like you'd kind of be recovering on Monday, Tuesday, and maybe Wednesday you feel good again. But then you do it all over again at the weekend, so you just go back in this cycle. So I was an alcoholic, but I just didn't have a healthy relationship with it. Like I never went for one pint. Like I could never see the benefit of just going for one pint. Like you just get one drink, you get excited, you're with the boys, and you just end up drinking more. So yeah, for me it was just I had to cut it all out just to get rid of it.
So you're not drinking at all now? Like
no, not yeah. I don't drink alcohol anymore.
All right.
For
Yeah,
years.
I remember back in the days when I was younger, I did not see the point either in drinking only one. For me, it was like I would drink as much as possible, but I always made it home before midnight. For me, I'm like, at least I get to sleep, enough hours. But obviously, that only mitigates the downsides of the alcohol consumption for so much. But yeah, I do remember that, I would just, I don't know if I've ever 10 drinks. I don't think that even beer I could handle 10. But yeah, I mean, based on my, I guess, my personal limits, I drank a lot too on the weekend for a brief period in my life. And I still look back and I'm like, how on earth did I even function properly? And the thing is, if you don't know any better, if you think, okay, that the performance is what it is, right? That's your baseline. You don't necessarily understand that you could be performing significantly better if alcohol wasn't part of the equation.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
until you see the difference. And I'm like, ooh, that's how I'm supposed to feel. That's how I'm supposed to perform. And then obviously it's, for some people at least, that's enough to say, you know what, I'm going to make some changes. And so you said it was during COVID, so that's only a couple of years ago, right? How old are you?
It was right after COVID. So it was like that year, like everything opened up, and it was that summer. So yeah, everyone got excited. We can talk to people, and we meet up for a lot of socializing that they couldn't happen during the lockdown. So yeah, we just got carried away.
And so you were still in Ireland at the time?
No, I was in America.
Oh, you were already here. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just lived the Irish life here in the US.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fair enough.
We need to interrupt this episode for a quick shout out to our sponsor, OneSkin, because let's be honest, nobody wants the skin cells checking out early. It's called cell senescence, when your cells basically start acting old and sluggish. And OneSkin's OS1 peptide is clinically proven to help slow that down. Plus, it's free of those nasty chemicals you'd rather not have hanging around. If you're ready to give your skin some extra love, head over to oneskin.co, that's oneskin.co, and use code MKUMMER for 15% off. Now back to our regular scheduled program before any more cells decide to retire.
All right, so no more alcohol. What do you think in terms of, I heard I don't remember the name of the book now, but a buddy of mine recently told me that he stopped drinking after reading this book, The Naked Mind, I think it was called. And it kind of it dissects the reasons why people are consuming alcohol. I mean, there are obviously a number of reasons, but very often it's only a handful of reasons. Some people drink because they feel like, if they don't drink with their pals, then, they are losers or whatever the case might be. They want to fit in, they drink because everyone is drinking. Some people drink to, forget, to wind down, to, whatever the reason might be. But, once you're in that book, at least once you read that and you really find out what are the true reasons why you're doing this, then apparently it becomes relatively easy, comparatively speaking, to say, you know what, those are not good enough reasons. I don't need that. And so that's what my body did successfully. And
what was his strategy for stopping then, or like what was his reasoning?
That's a very good. I'm not sure if he told me his exact reason, but the high level reason was like, to basically, calm down in the evening, wind down, after a stressful day, and kind of, I mean, the reason why I never drink 10 drinks. If I have 1.5 glasses of wine, I'm already pushing it to not see the negative impact in my sleep and then the following day.
Yeah.
But I do truly enjoy the taste of red wine. Much like I don't like the taste of beer, I do like the taste. And then this immediate or this initial feeling of where, you feel the effect of the alcohol, where like, it's almost like, oh, I'm going to let whatever pissed me off 5 minutes ago, it's good, kind of, And obviously that same feeling, what most people don't realize is you can get with other things, right? You can,
right.
I mean, I would argue that, jumping into a cold plunge and then getting out and feeling this effect that you feel after getting out of the cold and slowly warming up again, and, the endorphins, coming out. I'm like, I feel really good right now. So you can do that. I mean, it's obviously a little bit less convenient than having a glass of wine and sitting on the couch, but the net effect is pretty much the same. And then breathwork, I would argue, can get you to the same spot, right? And maybe let's
Yeah.
take that as a cue to talk a little bit about your cold plunging breathwork experience, what you've seen, how it has worked for you, and then dive into some of those maybe lesser known benefits that most people don't think about.
Yeah, so I actually did my first breathwork experience in Colombia, and I find myself at this event, Wim Hof event, ice bath and breath work, out of loneliness, to be honest. I was searching just for a community. I've been traveling for a year. Went to this event and we went through some breath work. And right after it, I just felt my energy surge and I felt clear headed, like all my worries had gone. And I just felt a lot of motivation to get in the plunge, which I
Hmm.
was actually not going to get into. I wasn't going to do it.
Right.
So I felt that confidence and that energy, and it actually gave me the motivation to get into the cold plunge. But what the breath work does, it also trains you like your nervous system. It activates your nervous system by switching your sympathetic state to the parasympathetic state, which is what happens when you get in the cold plunge. You hyperventilate when you get in the cold plunge, and then eventually you get into that meditative state where you're calm, cool, collected around the 2 minute mark.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what happens in the breath work. So when you do breath work before the cold plunge, it regulates your nervous system to deal with the stress. So breath work is you're hyperventilating just like in the cold plunge, and you're doing these breath holds. So you're simulating the fight or flight, and then the rest and digest.
Hmm.
So when you do that right before the cold plunge, your body's already adjusted to deal with stress,
Mm.
and so when you get in the cold plunge, you're not going to be as jarred when you get in there. You're going to be more relaxed. You're going to get into that relaxed state a lot quicker. And that's why I use it with people who I do events with. We do events every 2 weeks here. Bring people over to my house. We do the breath work. A lot of people it's just their first time,
Hmm.
but the breath work gets them. It gets them in the right zone and oxygenates their body. It trains their nervous system right before they get in, and it just makes it a little bit easier before they get in there. So,
Gotcha. All
yeah.
right. Yeah, and funny now that you say it, because my very first cold plunge was in freezing cold water. It was like 33 degrees. And there was this lady kind of, walking me through this ritual, right? And I'm like, I don't need any of this, voodoo thing, I'm just gonna do it. But honestly, I'm so glad that I allowed her to walk me through this. It was, some breathing and, I had my eyes closed and it was kind of, preparing me to maybe already go through, the first stage of like, when you have the 5 stages of, I always say, when you get in the cold plunge for the first time, you're going to go through those 5 stages of grief, until you end up at acceptance. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Nothing bad
Yeah.
is going to happen. And so it kind of, I think it helped me to cycle through those already before getting in, as you just said, and once you're in, you're already in this calm, collected kind of state, and you're okay. You're accepting what is happening to you, and you know that I don't need to freak out. It's good. It's okay.
Hmm.
And I don't think most people do that. I think most people just, they try to get in and they, freak out, maybe get out immediately, or never do it again, or go only in halfway and and then stop because the water is too cold or whatever. And
Yeah.
I wish that more people would focus on that breath work. Is there a specific, you mentioned, like intentional hyperventilating and breath holds. Is there a specific like pre-cold plunge protocol that people can, find and use?
Yeah, so it's just the Wim Hof method. It's 3 to 4 rounds of belly breaths. So if
Mm-hmm.
you imagine your breath coming in through your belly and you're taking big diaphragmatic breaths and you're doing 30 of those and you're doing breath holds at the very end of that the 30th breath, and
Mm-hmm.
then you take a big inhale in and then you tense and you hold it for like 30 seconds and then release. So
Mm-hmm.
you do that three times and it just resets your nervous system, gets your body oxygenated, and gets you ready for the cold. But yeah, I do really agree with what you say. Is just make it easier. Like getting the cold plunge is hard enough, and it's all about reducing the friction. Like I honestly, I was struggling to get in the cold plunge the start of this year. Like I'd been on vacation, hadn't been cold plunging, and I was like, I just wasn't consistent. And I read the book, The Atomic Habits, and one of the things is make it easy. I wasn't making it easy. I was going down in my boxers. It was winter time, and it was just an absolute nightmare. I didn't want to get in there at all. So I was like, okay, how do I make it easier? I'm going to put on joggers. I'm going to put a hoodie on. I'm going to make it attractive. I'm going to have coffee right before, and then it just makes the whole experience easier. And right now, when I put on my joggers, I know it's going to happen. Like it's a cue.
Right.
So just remove the friction, and if you've got to go for a high temperature just to get that habit started, like in the 60 degrees, 55 degrees, whatever it is. I know it's not a bragging rights at that stage, and you probably shouldn't tell anyone, but it's going to get you started,
Right.
and you can eventually lower the temperature down.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've seen that, fortunately, I do have those days where I'm like, I don't really want to do this, but I know that whenever I tell myself this, I know that I have to do it because I want to overcome that I don't wanna. But there are days where I'm like, you know what? Today, maybe I'm only gonna stay in a minute or 2 minutes or however long, like shorter than I would usually do, just so I get it done and I book that mental win. So then tomorrow it's gonna be easier because I already did it the day before, rather than not doing it at all, and then you're kind of you keep pushing that that initial cold plunge ahead of you instead of just getting it over with to in whatever shape or form, book the success and then do better maybe the following day.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just like keeping the streak going. Like when you stop, it's just a lot harder to get back on the train. Like you get in your head, you're like, oh, let's take another day. So I do agree with like keeping the streak going. What is your protocol for cold plunging?
We usually do it before working out in the morning. So I want to leverage that, testosterone boosting benefits of pre-cooling, so to say. And so we do it 2 to 3 minutes in the morning, and then we go straight to workout. Sometimes if it's not a pre-workout plunge, I typically combine it with contrast therapy. So I do, sauna, cold, at least 2 cycles if we have more time than more often. But that's usually... And the post sauna is, I really like that a lot because you're so hot and overheated, you kind of want to get into the cold to cool down.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel terrible. It's actually nice to get into the cold and
Yeah,
then
it's
back
a lot
into the
easier.
sauna, right? But yeah, the brutal one is typically the one in the morning especially when it's cold outside. I mean, here in Georgia, we don't get terribly cold temperatures, but we've had, maybe low 20s or so. 2 or so weeks ago, and then as you said, if you walk down in your trunks and otherwise naked and the wind is blowing and it's super cold, I'm like, really, why I'm doing this?
Yeah. You're procrastinating.
Yeah, exactly. Like let's maybe I don't know, do something else real quick before, so I kind of can delay
Let's do it in the evening time.
Exactly. That's another thing, because people, a lot of people are under the impression that plunging in the evening can disrupt your sleep. And I would agree that, I would not necessarily get out of the plunge and then go right to bed, because it likely will negatively impact your ability to fall asleep just based on your, changes in core temperature. But I've seen if I plunge like 2 hours before, especially at the end of a very stressful day, if I just go in, it helps me relax and reset a little bit. So then the evening is much more relaxed, and it's almost like I leave my stress in the cold, right? Once I get out, I kind of, it goes away and I'm like a new person. So what do you think about that?
So one of my, I'm kind of controversial in this, but my favorite protocol is actually cold plunging after a workout and right before bed. And the reason being, I want to work out every day, and sometimes I work late. So the workout is the only option I have is working out late. So if I work out and late and then go to bed, I'm just not going to sleep well, and it's just like this cycle. So
Right.
if I cold plunge right after the workout, even though I know it's going to maybe blunt the muscle gains a little bit, I'd rather get it done. But getting in the cold plunge right after the workout, it reduces my core temperature, reduces my heart rate, and I'm able to go to sleep a lot quicker right
Mm.
after it. And I'd rather get like an extra few workouts a week doing that,
Right.
rather than like missing a workout and saying, "Oh, it's too late." But
Yeah.
I
Uh,
that's one of my
yeah.
favorite protocols.
And I think that's a important, for listeners, because a lot of people say, well, oh, now is not the perfect time, so let's rather not. I think
Mm,
I'd rather cold plunge, or get that workout in, or do whatever, even if it might not be ideal for everyone. And again,
mm,
this is very, I think, also very everyone responds differently, to
yeah,
certain protocols. Some people like to eat before working out. Some people work out fasted. There are so many different ways of doing it. I think it's more important to do it than to worry about the exact or perfect timing. Maybe if there are days
right.
when, I mean, life is not perfect. And I think also from an ancestral perspective, there was no planning. Oh, I'm gonna get cold now before I'm gonna hunt down that saber-toothed tiger. No, stuff happens. In whatever order it happens. And I
Yeah.
think you need to be flexible,
Mm,
and you need to. I really like that concept of intermittent living, where I do things intermittently,
mhm.
and also in a, not really a random, but in that quasi random order, where I don't always do the same thing, not always plunging before the workout, not always after, not always eating in a certain manner. Try to mix it up, because at the end of the day, we need to keep our bodies guessing, so they can
Mm,
adapt and become more resilient and be okay with whatever is happening.
yeah.
And instead of saying, oh no, I cannot work out because I didn't have my banana. you know I mean, dude, just get the job done and worry about your banana later. And the same, I think, goes with cold plunging and sauna bathing, and everything in between.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. When you talked about that, it just reminded me of, yeah, you just need to keep on changing, like make it harder. Well, I know when you're at like one temperature, for me, I was at like 40 degrees for a while, and I didn't think dropping the temperature was gonna do much difference, but dropping it at 3 degrees, like you can feel that
Hmm.
kick of dopamine and norepinephrine a lot more. I know
Right.
you said before in one of your podcasts that you got in a cold plunge where it was full of ice,
Hmm.
and you didn't think there was going to be much difference from a 39-degree cold plunge versus ice. And it's just testing these things and seeing what works for you, and like how it affects you, and like how you feel after. I think it's just like everyone's different, so you just need to test out and see how you feel.
Yes, and I also think that I respond differently on different days, depending on maybe how well I've slept, what I've eaten. I don't know what all the factors are, but I can definitely tell sometimes the cold plunge feels suckier than on other days. Even if the
Mm-hmm.
temperature might be a little bit higher, it feels worse. I shiver maybe sooner, or I really don't want to get in, even though the environment, the way it's set up, would be conducive to doing that, but I don't feel like it. So there are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of different factors involved. And again, I don't think you want to get too much hung up on the details. Just get that stuff done. And speaking of getting it done, what are some of the key benefits that you're after? Why do you plunge? I mean, there are so many health benefits, but what is it that
Yeah,
that you
like
value
my
most?
my yeah, my main protocol is first thing in the morning, 20 minutes within waking up, I get in the cold plunge. Right now it's at 37 degrees. I go in for 3 minutes. The reason being, I get knocked out straight away in the morning, and I always get it done because like life doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
I get it ticked off. And another reason why I do it in the morning is for the focus and mental acuity that I get from
Hmm.
it. So I get in the cold plunge and I head dunk. And the reason why I do that is it enhances the dopamine and norepinephrine effect, and it activates the mammalian die reflex. So it slows your heart rate down. It puts the blood to your vital organs a lot quicker. Therapists actually recommend it to people with anxiety, because it activates the parasympathetic state immediately.
Hmm.
And I just get all these things done in the morning. I just like get out and I'm just like, okay, I'm ready to attack the
Right.
day. And it's just that discipline thing. Like I don't want to head dunk in 37-degree water right when I wake up. But I think it's just a mental um self-discipline thing that builds like confidence in yourself. Like I can tackle this, I can
Right.
tackle
Exactly.
whatever's
Yeah.
gonna come my way this day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mainly use it for focus and for the energy boost it gives me in the morning, and pair that with coffee. I'm just off to
Right.
the races.
Yeah.
So
My wife actually the other day said, you know what, it was in the afternoon, and she said, you know, I kind of feel really sluggish and stuff, and I'm like, just go down, put your head in the cold plunge, you know, don't have to go in all the way, just put your head in. And she's
yeah,
like, really? I'm like, yeah, do it. And she did it, and she's like, what a difference that makes, you know, just your face or your head. It doesn't have to be the
yeah,
entire body. I mean, obviously, you know, to get the full benefits of the cold plunge experience, you want to be, you know, all in.
yeah.
But if you're just feeling like sluggish and you need a jolt of energy without, you know, necessarily relying on caffeine or other stimulants, just
Mhm.
get your face into cold water and you'll be awake
Oh
immediately.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, your face, your head has like the most concentration of nerves. So putting your face in there, I feel like if you don't head dunk, you're not doing it right. You're
Right.
missing out half the benefits.
Uh,
So get your head in there, head dunk, and you're gonna feel a lot better.
yeah. Funny enough, I don't know why I did this or when I started doing this, but I usually head dunk before getting out. I
Right
know
before you get
everyone
out.
does it. Yeah. So I tip, you know, I'm
Yeah.
in for my 2, 3 minutes, whatever, and then I head dunk and I get out. Um, and I'm like, I wonder if there is I have to change it up and do it before and see if it makes a difference.
Once you go in. So
Uh-huh.
I've been thinking about that as well. It's obviously a lot harder because you're going from 0 to like 1,000 when you like head dunk.
Right.
So,
Uh-huh.
but I do think it would be probably the next stage, like doing it right before, right when you get in there. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
hard.
Right.
Um, yeah, I know. I have a customer who's a pro baseball player, and that's his protocol. He gets in, head dunks straight away, and holds his head under there for
Mm-hmm.
like 10 to 20 seconds. And I asked him why do you do that? He's like, I don't know about the health benefits, but I know it's hard as shit, and I want
Yeah.
to do the hardest thing to prove that I'm a badass. I was like, fair enough.
Uh-huh. So breath work. So you do your cold plunge in the morning. When do you do breath work? Before every cold plunge, or you don't do it anymore before because you're used to it already?
Yeah, it's just a bit of it takes a bit of time. So it takes like 15 to 20 minutes. I would do it once a week, just to on a Saturday or Sunday when I'm doing my own like kind of recovery protocol. And it just helps more so to reset my nervous system and like clear out my mental clutter, because it's just a really intense meditation, I feel like. And I go really deep with it. I feel like with meditation, I get like I can't go that deep in it. Like it takes a long time to get into it. And with breath work, you're forced into presence, just like the cold. You're forced
Mm-hmm.
into presence. Like
Right.
you have to think about nothing but your breath and like
Right.
where you are.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I would just do it once a week. I lead people through it who's the first time, because I know it makes it easier for them. But for me, yeah, it's just more for like a nervous system reset, and just to help with like stress of the week.
Mm-hmm. So once a week is enough for you to kind of get back to baseline and then, you know, let this, I guess, stress accumulate again for the following week and then rinse and
Yeah,
repeat.
yeah. I mean, like the cold plunge helps with the stress, like
Right.
that helps. If I'm doing that every day, like I feel like I don't really need much else. Like I don't feel much stress at all when I'm doing the cold plunge every day. So that have you ever done breath work yourself, or like I know you
Yeah.
mentioned once,
Yeah. I mean,
twice.
pretty much every time I go into the plunge, I mean, I don't do it like before, you know, I've fortunately come to the point where, you know, I don't even have that major gasp reflex anymore. I just get in and I'm immediately okay.
Hmm.
So I don't feel like I need it, you know, to prepare myself getting in. But when I'm in there, I'm very intentional of focus on slowing down my breathing. So I kind of do
Hmm.
breath work, not because I want to follow a specific protocol, but I've noticed that by paying attention to my breath, I zone out or I, you know, block out everything around me, and I can really focus on feeling what I'm feeling at this moment, you know, and trying to enjoy this as much as I can, as funny as it sounds, because it doesn't feel pleasant, but it kind of does, you know. It's like this, it's unpleasant, but you want to do it, you know, kind of.
Hmm.
And so I really try to focus on that, and I achieve that by just focusing on my breath and intentionally slowing it down. I even, you know, usually when I'm in there for 3 minutes, I take 8 breaths, during those 3 minutes. That's how far, like a box breathing kind of thing, where I inhale, hold, exhale, hold at the same kind of cadence, like 10 seconds each. And so, I take, one full breath and a minute is over, kind of, almost.
Really, that's super interesting. When you're talking like and talking about like different protocols, I know Navy SEAL that I was guiding him through our cold plunge at the time, and he was like, have you ever tensed your core to get the blood flowing in there? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, we're told to tense our core and cave it upwards to trap the warm blood as if we're in cold water as a Navy SEAL. So I've been trying to practice that recently, of like thinking about like you're holding your blood in your core, and it's just like another thing you should try testing out and see if you feel a difference.
Yeah. So you tighten your core, or
Yeah, you tighten your core and like kind of concave it, and his thought process is that it holds the blood in around your vital organs, and it makes it easier to deal with the cold.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I have to try that. And so with, besides, well, let me ask you this: if you had to pick one, cold plunging or breath work, for whatever benefits you're after, which one would you pick? Which one do you think is more beneficial for you?
For me, it's definitely the cold plunging. Like it's more intense. Yeah, it's just like that full body immersion. Like it's like a visceral experience. You get your whole blood flowing. You've got the norepinephrine and dopamine that's released. The breath work is also good. It does the same thing with your nervous system by switching it from fight or flight to rest and digest, and you go into a deep meditative state. They're just very different. They both train your nervous system, but I feel like with all the benefits of the cold plunge, there's just a lot more. With the recovery that it hits on, increases your longevity. It improves your mood, like your focus. Like it hits on all these things. So within 3 minutes, you get all these things from cold plunging, and then breath work takes a bit longer. It's like 20 minutes.
Right.
So it's a bit more, but you don't need to buy a cold plunge for.
Right.
You don't need to buy anything for breath work. It's free.
Right.
You can do that every morning. So maybe pair it with a cold shower if you don't have a cold plunge is something you could test out.
Right. What would you say that, besides from a benefit perspective, both on the breathing as well as on the cold plunging side, what do you think are some of the lesser known benefits that people might not think about or consider?
So for the breath work, like for me, like I use it as like a clarity setting intention. So before I go into the breath work, it just goes it makes you go straight into your subconscious. So right before I say, what do I need to know that I'm not present of right now? And because you're so deep, like things just pop up, and it could be a voice, it could be like a visual, like a visual sign. It's just been very beneficial for me in understanding what's going on internally, like mentally. So journaling about that after has been like a benefit that not too many people really talk about. Like it just you go straight into your subconscious mind, and you can really get some really good nuggets that you're not aware of in your day to day because of all the stimulus that's going on.
Right. Yeah, I've never thought about that either, but that's interesting. And for cold plunging, what do you think? What would you say?
For cold plunging, one of the benefits that's not really talked about. I mean, it's not to do with me, but I've heard about the cancer effects. It helps reduce cancer, and I was on a podcast recently, and I had to do some research, and it was super interesting how cancer cells just gobble up glucose. Like they use 100 times more glucose than normal cells.
With the glucose is an interesting aspect because, it's also one of the benefits of a ketogenic diet, right? If you starve the cancer of glucose of its main fuel, you can at least, if nothing else, support conventional cancer treatments, right? I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
you're going to heal your cancer by just avoiding carbs, but everything else being equal, starving the cancer of its main fuel source is probably
Hmm.
going to be beneficial. And with cold plunging, I can only imagine that there are, if I'm not mistaken, there are like insulin and glucose regulating benefits to cold water immersion, and that likely plays a role in how cancer cells can proliferate or do well in such an environment if they are starved of the glucose, or if it, I don't know, that the cold makes it more difficult for them
Yeah.
to use the fuel source.
Yeah. So yeah, the cancer like needs glucose to survive and gobbles it up to grow. And when you go into cold, or you whether it's water or cold environment, it activates the brown fat, and the brown fat like uses that glucose and starves out the cancer
Mm,
cells, which was pretty interesting. They haven't done too many studies on humans, but they've done
right.
it on mice who had cancer growth, and they saw like a direct comparison or a direct correlation
Hmm.
in the growth of cancer and cold water or cold environments.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. The funny thing is with all those metabolic, issues, if you just, you know, all of the things that we kind of recommend people should do, eat an appropriate diet, expose yourself to hermetic stressors, cold, hot, etc., exercise, all of those things really help for all of those chronic conditions. I mean, it's great that there is now if there is now emerging science that says, well, if you immerse yourself to cold water, then you can potentially reduce the risk of cancer, or at least slow down the growth, or support traditional treatment methods. But at the end of the day, obviously, if you live well and live in a way how humans are supposed to live, how humans and our ancestors have been living for a very, very, very long time, exposed to
Hmm.
cold intermittently, exposed to heat, exposed to, a lack of food, aka fasting, a lack of water for that matter, and all of those things, and then having to walk, having to exercise, having to exert themselves, and not being able to continue, watching TV after the sun has gone down because there was no electricity and the light was out, basically, literally, if you kind of follow all of those principles, chances are, you're gonna do fairly well from a health and wellness perspective. And cold water immersion is definitely one of those things that, I mean, everyone should really be doing in whatever shape or form, starting with a cold shower. If you live in a climate where it gets really cold in winter and you're close to a body of water, jump into the water,
Hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise get yourself a good cold plunge, like I know that you guys obviously sell plenty of cold plunges.
Yep.
And that's it's an investment for sure, because some of those, the higher quality ones, aren't necessarily inexpensive, but being sick is costs more.
Mm.
you know
Yeah. I know, like when you talked about like just doing something hard, like reminded me of when I was in an entrepreneur house, and I was kind of got comfortable. Like I was in a brain fog, wasn't like focused. And one of the guys said to me, "What is the one thing that you've stopped doing that you can get a win on in the morning that's hard?" And it was the cold water or the
hmm
cold showers that I stopped. And once I started incorporating cold showers, like my momentum started building back up, and it's just like a cornerstone routine.
right.
So it's just a question to yourself, like, what is the one thing that's hard I can do in the morning that's going to give
Yes.
me momentum? Whether it's
hmm
like a cold shower, whether it's like meditation, what you don't want to do, or journaling, or maybe it's an intense workout, but like
hmm
doing that hard thing right off the bat,
hmm
and and just yeah, going to back to your the primal like uncomfortability,
right.
and yeah, just getting the ball rolling, and getting the momentum going.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think everyone should pick one hard thing and do it first thing in the morning, or maybe second. It doesn't matter if it's the first thing, but do it in the morning before your day starts. Chances are, once the day has started, you're not going to be doing those things anymore, because there are 1,000 other priorities that compete with, what you want to do. Get it done. Take the win. Make at the end of the day, it makes you feel good that you've accomplished something in the morning already. And I think you said it before, once you've done this hard thing, everything else that's going to come your way throughout the day, you can do as well, because you likely already did the hardest thing you can possibly do, and that is jumping into the cold water or taking a cold shower, especially when it's cold outside, like in winter time. Taking a cold shower in winter sucks balls. But if you can do that, there is nothing else that you can't do.
Right. Yeah. It just like sets the tone for the day, and once you get that win, it's just everything else is downhill from there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely advisable.
All right. Well, cool. That was a good and informative discussion. Much appreciated. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you do, how you do it, and your cold plunges?
Yeah, Inergize Health is our Instagram handle, or energizehealth.com is where we sell our products, and you can learn a bit more about my story. And we've got some videos on there, blogs, educational information as well. But yeah, energizehealth.com.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate it, man, very much. And I'll let you know once the episode airs, and we'll tag you on all the social content.
Sweet.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All righty. Thanks,
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. See ya.
Cheers.
Next on the Primal Shift podcast. You've heard it before. Every hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 after. But is that actually true? And what if you're a night owl? Are you doomed? In the next episode, we're breaking down the science of sleep timing, circadian rhythms, and how small shifts in your schedule can be a total game changer. Don't miss it.